Well, I would love to hear your take just before we get into the deeper Simpsony dodginess, because we know we've spoken about the Simpsons before and
Mhm.
their predictive stuff where I know they predicted Trump coming in as president, a whole lot of other things as well, the death of the Queen, stuff like
Yep,
that, and we're
January
seeing.
6th events and yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So we're seeing a lot more of that now, and it's becoming more and more apparent. But before we get there, what is your take on this whole um, submersive stuff? Let's call it that.
Yeah.
That's been going on lately.
Well, I think first, looking, I guess my general opinion of what we're seeing is, it's my belief that The Simpsons, people like to say it's predictive or things like that. But I think what really we're seeing is that um, back in my days in the 80s and it went well before that, but I've brought forth how, you know, one of the things that the military did was the looking glass experiments, and with that, they used children to look into the future and to um, see in the spirit world to see what was coming, or, um, with that, they wanted to be able to manipulate time and space. So, what did they do? They did lots of biofeedback, which meant that, as these children had these visions or dreams, they were writing down every detail, of what that child was experiencing, seeing, hearing, feeling, and all the things that possibly could happen. And then they began to, you know, put the children into groups so that, like I've explained how my core group of three, I was the one that would always see it, the end picture, end result. Then you had, my one of the other little boys that would see, kind of the step by step, the point A to point B. And then you had another one that would see the step by step point A to B, but then he also would see all the consequences of each choice or each step. So as they begin to put all those pieces together, their questions were, well, if we don't want that end picture, what steps can we affect? Where can we start to make that change so that we can get a different result? So those are things that, you know, the government and the military began to do and use those things for. Now, as I've seen more and more of The Simpsons, I have to ask is that somehow connected um, to the Looking Glass project? And is it plausible that they're maybe putting out information that comes from, Looking Glass biofeedback, and they're creating these episodes which would do two things. One, it would makes any survivor who, has had those visions very uneasy, because things are being made public and there's that code to silence. But at the same time, it's a way that the system has done things like that before publicly in order to keep survivors under control. So there's times where they'll, you know, give pieces of your life or your experiences to Hollywood, and you'll watch it unfold in some big movie that comes out. And it's meant to intimidate, it's meant to cause fear, it's meant to keep survivors' mouths shut and keep them under control. So, there is that plausibility that that is what Simpsons is, that really it's meant to, keep survivors from coming forward about things. And it's a further way of the system to hide things because, everything is classified under kind of creator content, more of that artistical side of things. And people don't think of, um, the authority, the jurisdiction, the legal complications and all that is that, basically this is how they're getting away with stuff. If they make it seem like it's fake, it's not real, it's just us expressing our creator content. Yes, there's similarities, but there'll be little shifts or changes, so you can't say 100%, that was predicting that full event, right? Because there'll be
Mm,
little differences. Um, so in that, nobody can hold them accountable
mm,
for any crimes or the preparation of any crimes. And think of that, the big word in that is preparation. What is their full job? Is it to, remind those who have been brought up in the system who are connected to these end time events of the things that they're preparing, that the system itself is preparing us all for? Um, how many years have they spent in preparation? You
yeah,
know, well over 100, 200 years, well
yeah,
over that. And over and over again, they go over these events, they go over these timelines, you know, they make the plan and they expect us all to simply fall in line with it, to accept it for what it is, and not to really have any understanding or knowledge or wisdom or any offense or defense against that plan. Yeah, I think, like we said, I think it's beyond predictions. I think that there's access to high level military programs. And, in that, let's bring forward a word with it. You know, what is really behind the scenes? We have individuals that, beyond science are trying to play and mess with time. And in a way, they're trying to be God, trying to control and be sovereign over that time. And
yeah.
really behind that is witchcraft that, they're using Solomonic black magic to manipulate and to try to, weather or direct where time is going and where
Mm.
humanity is going within that time.